From the Opubco studios at Britton and Broadway, this is the OU Sports edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation with Jake Trotter. I'm Jenni Carlson. Jake, let's talk some baseball. Sooners, number 7 national seed in the NCAA tournament, home for the duration if they can make it all the way. They lose in the regional. Surprising for the Sooners to end that way?
A little surprising, but their starting pitching really doomed them from the start of the regional to the end with an exceptional start by Garrett Richards thrown in between. But both times against Arkansas and really against Wichita State too, they got nothing out of their starters. I mean, they didn't have a guy last more than 3 innings. And anytime you do that, you're playing from behind from the start. And it was just too much pressure on the hitters. You know, you see teams that are very good at the plate. When they're down 5-0 right off the bat, they tend to press a little bit, and I think that happened to OU all weekend, and that's why Arkansas's number 3 pitcher almost threw a no-hitter last night, took it into the 9th inning before it was broken up. But Arkansas is a good hitting team, but they're not a great hitting team. They have 2 guys in their lineup that were hitting under 200 this year. There's no excuse for why OU starting pitching was so poor all weekend.
How does the way that this season ended for the baseball team, how does that color what happened this year? I mean, obviously they finished 2nd in the Big 12, have a really good regular season, but obviously the clunker at the end. How does that color things for the Sooners?
I think they still had a great year. You can't take away from that. I mean, they finished 2nd in the Big 12, 7 national seed, as you mentioned. But it leaves a little distaste in your mouth because they didn't even push it till Monday. You know, they were, and both times they played Arkansas, they really got hammered, 17-6 and 11-0. Those aren't competitive games, and so I think it leaves a little distaste in those players and the fans and Coach Sonny Galloway for what otherwise was a really nice season. The problem is they're going to lose a lot of those hitters that really made this team strong next year, this past season. And looking ahead, they're going to need some of those younger pitchers to step up. They have a lot of arms in the bullpen they're going to bring back in the starting staff, probably led by Ryan Duke, who had a really nice year as a closer. But they got to find some guys to surround Garrett Buechele in the lineup. So they have a chance to have a decent team next year. But, it was a missed opportunity because they really had, up and down the lineup, a lot of big-time hitters that didn't show up this weekend.
Yeah. Let's turn our attention now to football. You wrote in your OU Insider about a guy that is local and is going to stay local, Bronson Irwin, an offensive lineman from Mustang. Talk about him, and he's going to be a Sooner in the future.
Big-time Sooner fan growing up. His mom went to OU. His dad has lived in the state his whole life, and so has he, and grew up going to OU games. I think his first memory was of the 2000 Nebraska game, which makes me feel really old. Because that's only 9 years ago.
Yeah.
But he remembered that was his first memory of an OU football game, and I think from then on, he knew he wanted to play at OU football. It's just a question of whether he could get to that level, and he has. He's the number 2 prospect in the state, according to our ratings, behind DeMarco Cobbs of Tulsa Central. Mm-hmm. And he's playing a position. Guard right now that OU really needs. They need bodies at guard, especially this season, but looking ahead when they lose Brian Simmons, they're going to need some help in the middle, and he's going to provide that. Nice kid, and I think he'll do well there.
So he's a guy that when he does get there, he could maybe be looking at getting some playing time, whether in a starting or reserve role right away.
Well, it depends, what they get out of Tavares Jeffries, the junior college transfer this year. Does he come in and make an impact? If he does, that helps them. Not only in 2009 but 2010, and then they got a couple freshmen coming in. So it just depends how those guys turn out. But if they have some problems with those guys, they're going to really need some help immediately, even if it is from a true freshman. And the good thing about Irwin, as far as playing as a freshman, he's planning to enroll early at OU in the spring, which will give him a leg up on the competition.
All right. Lastly, let's turn to track. NCAA regionals this last weekend in Norman. And Will Clay just continues to be impressive in the triple jump, just continues to set big marks. Talk a little bit about his day and then the Sooners moving forward as they head towards NCAA championships.
Well, he's really phenomenal. He's had one of probably the greatest freshman seasons in the history of OU track. He was sick all week. He went home to his high school graduation because he's really 17 and he should be in high school still, or should have just graduated high school, but he left early to participate with the team. Got sick while he was home because the graduation apparently was in the rain.
Oh, wow.
Came back and really didn't do well in the long jump. He was still sick, but in the triple jump on Saturday, he and this kid from A&M went back and forth, and he had the last jump, and with the crowd cheering, set a personal best. I think it was 54 inches 2 feet, 55 maybe. I don't know. How do I remember that? Track numbers are hard to recall, but he really is having a great year. The NCAA Outdoor Championships here in a couple weeks. He has a chance to really leave his mark, and I think we're looking at a guy. If he stays healthy, keeps working hard, he seems to have it all together mentally, which is, I think, as important as anything else. This guy might be seen in 2012 in London. I mean, he's that good.
He has it together mentally as a 17-year-old. Way impressive. All right, thanks, Jake. Stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.